witches! So for today, I wanted to talk about some of the spiritual experiences I had while I was camping last weekend. So if you guys don't know, I didn't really talk about this because it was kind of like a personal trip for my partner and I. We decided to celebrate both of our birthdays during that trip, and it was super duper fun. So basically, I accidentally scheduled this camping trip to be during a full moon, like literally it was like Saturday, and also during Mercury retrograde. So it was definitely not perhaps the best time for me to be planning this trip, but we did it anyways. And I actually had a very like visceral experience, specifically with the goddess Hecate. So if you guys are interested in that, I am by no means an expert. I want to make that very clear. I feel like I say that in every video where it's just like, this is just what I do. And this is just how I experience things. So that is, again, one of these videos. But my coven and I have been reading through Keeping Her Keys by Cindy Brannon. Super cool book. I like some of the stuff in it. She is a monotheist, so some of it does kind of read as like Christianity, but that might just be like my religious trauma talking, so please just take that with a grain of salt. But I am working through, well, we are all working through the framework of that book, so by the end of it, I can like self-initiate, I guess, and become a keeper of Hecate's keys, a priest, etc. So that is kind of my goal, and I am basically finished, well, I am finished, with the first, like, section of that book. I really realized over the weekend, like, how much I excelled at, like, school, and by treating this like school, it just brings me so much joy because it's like, I just like being able to track my progress and to kind of have, like, an end goal and, like, a timeline. I'm a Virgo, I love a good syllabus, right? So I am done with like the introduction, chapter 1 and chapter 2, which is like the first part of it. And then it follows like a 13 chapter cycle, I guess, where you do, like you focus on one chapter per month for 13 months. Get into it, it's super cool. So during the camping trip, I kind of went with a couple goals, right? One, I knew it was the full moon, so I wanted to be sure that I made moon water, which if you guys remember last week, we did talk about, so I did make moon water, and I know I said I didn't really do it a lot, or I didn't really use plastic in my practice a lot, but I definitely just like chucked a water bottle out there, and let that charge under the full moon. And then I used it to water all my plants when I got home. It was really fun. So that is one of the things that I did. I've been studying and practicing a little bit of yoga, like kind of for my own personal practices, but mostly because it just makes my body feel really good, as well as my mind. And there's so many aspects beyond the physical when it comes to studying yoga. So there's a lot there, but I don't really feel qualified to teach on it because, again, not qualified. But I do legitimately enjoy it. And I found Nourish Natasha, she has like she had a full moon in Pisces yoga flow that I wanted to do in the woods during the full moon. So those were like my two main goals, but I actually ended up working a lot in my little notebook that I am using to accompany Keeping Her Keys. So that was like really amazing. I think I came to a lot of realizations about myself during that time. I went into the weekend preparing myself for a spiritual experience, which I think if you are going to do something like that, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna go out for a weekend in the woods, reconnect with nature, reconnect with myself, etc., you kind of have to prepare yourself, and kind of, I almost like want to say I invited that spiritual experience in. And I really think that the preparation I did beforehand helped me kind of remain open to experiencing those things, because oftentimes like I will be the skeptic where I'm like, that's not a sign. So I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't going too far one way or too far the other. It's kind of like, you know, if something weird happens, something weird happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't, it's fine. And while nothing like weird per se happened, I definitely had a lot of time to kind of reflect, which during a full moon I think was actually kind of fun. And also to kind of really take a step back from like social media and like all of my daily responsibilities and really kind of just like get right with myself, which I really feel like I haven't had a chance to do for like a year. So it was definitely very necessary and very grounding, very like balancing. So some things that I experienced. The first, and I think probably like the most major one that I could say, is this amazing visualization or kind of like image that appeared to me during a meditation with Hecate. So in Cindy Brandon's book, she talks about kind of unifying the three selves, the upper self, the lower self, and then the middle self. I'll let you read the book to learn more about that. But during this meditation, she asks you to kind of visualize this. So I did. And in the last like two, I guess, like major interactions that I have had with Hecate since starting this like book or starting this experience, she has always like led me almost like into this like astral temple. And I don't really know how to explain that. But during this meditation, she kind of like led me to this pool, and I was like laying in this pool, but like the water was like halfway, like kind of like along my chest. The bottom part of me was kind of like this dark, kind of swirly, like I couldn't see through the water. My chest was like glowing this really beautiful red. And then above me, my hair actually, in this visualization, of course, turned like this really beautiful white and was like kind of floating around me. And for me, I almost felt like I could not break from this meditation. Like usually when I meditate, I kind of feel like, you know, if something happened, I could just open my eyes and it would be good. But in this case, I really felt like I was there experiencing it in that moment, which for me is often like what I experience when I am working directly with deity. So that was really validating for me. I was like, okay, this is kind of what I have experienced in the past working with Hearn or the Morrigan or any of the other deities that I work with. So for it to like be a consistent pattern, and now with this deity that I am really focusing my attention on, it was very, very validating to me. So that meditation was really cool. I did some art related to it. Like I kind of tried to sketch it because like I could not get these images out of my head. And in my notebook, I have been doing like so much art. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I really feel like I have been in such a creative rut. And I work with a lot of like really talented artists like at a tattoo shop. So anytime I try to draw and it's like nowhere as good as they are, I'm just like, I'm the worst. Oh my gosh, which is absolutely not how you should like approach art. Please practice. That's how you get better. But honestly, I have been practicing like non-judgment when it comes to my art and just doing stuff that makes me feel happy just for me, because who cares? You know what I mean? I feel like because I went to art school, I'm always just like, oh my gosh, people are going to judge what I make. And if it's not an A, I don't want it. But now that like I feel like I've kind of separated myself from, you know, having, I guess, my value based on what I can create, like in terms of like visual arts and stuff, I just feel so much more relaxed when it comes to it. So I really experienced, I feel like, true relaxation where I was just going for it. I was drawing, I got to read my books. It was amazing. It did rain a lot of the time. I'll give Mother Nature that. So unfortunately it did kind of rain and I wasn't able to like experience, I feel like, as much of the forest as I would like to, but for what it's worth, we did do a lot of hiking. I saw a lot of deer, which is really cool, and just like a nice reminder that Hearn was near. But primarily beyond that, I also, almost forgot, I did do a really nice kind of like morning grounding where I just literally laid on the ground the first morning that we got there Friday night. So Saturday morning, I'm just like laying almost like a snow angel or something on the ground, and was very happy that like no one else was around to see me just being absolutely crazy. But that felt really like physical, right? So obviously laying on the ground, you're gonna feel the earth beneath you, but it almost felt like the earth was like kind of creating this little pocket around me, and it really just felt like a hug. And that kind of solidified to me the fact that like I really, really need to be around nature more. Like I need a yard, guys. Like I love my apartment, but you know, I think it is a good signal that I am moving forward out of this phase of my life, which is really, really scary. Like transformation is super scary. But it's also kind of exciting. So for the first time, I think I'm actually like excited for change. I definitely feel myself kind of moving more towards like being an adult, which is super weird for me. And I think that I got a lot of validation that was like okay, and it's cool for me to move forward and just be like my badass self, I would, if I can toot my own horn a little bit, Hecate really just gave me kind of like the green light, I felt like, and I don't really know how to explain that other than just like that emotion came over me where I kind of like have a fire lit under my ass now to like really make shit happen. For the past year, I didn't realize this again until I was in the woods, but and this is something that I came to the realization of like at 3 a.m. as it's raining. I'm like, tears are streaming down my face and it starts raining harder, and I was like, no, oh my gosh, I'm like controlling the water. I'm a waterbender. No, not really, but I really realized that the past year I've been beating myself up mercilessly for like not being further in my life, or like not working hard enough, or like not being a good friend and stuff, which whatever, but really what I realized is that the reason I felt this way is because I was getting out of a super toxic like work situation, and I needed to heal from that. I didn't realize how bad it was like at my other job until I got out of it and got some clarity, and I really don't feel like I gave myself to heal from that. Gave myself the space to heal from that, excuse me. But like kind of have had to over the past year regardless. So when I say that this has probably been like one of the hardest years of my life, it's my own doing. Like I definitely made it way harder on myself. But I think that by kind of going out into nature, a lot of things were kind of reflected back at me, which is part of Mercury retrograde as well. But I'm just very enthusiastic and like encouraged moving forward, and I just want to thank everybody for like sticking with me so far. But yeah, like once again, witchcraft is like the thing grounding me in my life, and it just really legitimizes the fact that this is the path that I'm supposed to be on. So thank you guys for following along with my journey. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.